सरस्वती ठाकुर श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की शिरोपि सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ जीव पर्वत रस रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभु की प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवजरी गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपाल गोपीनाथ मुकुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की मैथुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की गंगा देवी की हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की श्री श्री गौनिताय की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की गो प्रेमानंदे हरे हरे गो समवेत भक्त वृंद की All glories to the assembly of Christ. All glories to the assembly of Christ. All glories to Shiguranga, Chiguranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Second chapter, text number 12. Natvevaham jato nasam Natvam neme janadipa Natchaiva nabhavishyama Sarve vayam ataparam Natvevaham jato nasam Natvam neme janadipa Certainly, aham, I, jatu, at any time, na, did, not, asam, exist, na, not, tvam, you, na, not, ime, all these, janadipa, kings, na, never, cha, also, eva, certainly, na, bhavishyama, not, bhavishyama, shall exist, sarve vayam, all of us, ata, param, hereafter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Purport. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad as well as in the Shveta Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by His plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. Nitya nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman tam atmastam ye nupachyati dhiras tesham shanti shashyati netaresham. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. So the Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority, nor is a theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were an effect, then Krishna would not have stressed it. We may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual but material. Even accepting the argument that the individual is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways. An impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavad philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned. Om Jnanatinivandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chaksoranamridam Yanam Dasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupagadam Ayam Dharati Sabadantigam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yadavadagamanan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishagan Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopikakanta Radha Kanta Namastute Datta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prijamano Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivadari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 So, the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna about the existence of the soul and that we should not grieve of what is not worthy of grief, and that is the material body, which is impermanent. That is the first step in spiritual life, or in the human form of life actually. When one has attained the material human form of life, one has the opportunity, the ability to understand that one is not this body, that one is spirit soul. And the purpose of human form of life is to realize that we are not this body, that we are spirit soul. And then, of course, the relationship with the Supreme Lord has to be understood. That we are part and parcels of Krishna. That we are the servants of Krishna. So, Krishna, of course, is speaking to Arjuna, who is his devotee, but ultimately by Krishna's own internal potency, Arjuna is momentarily bewildered. Actually, for the benefit of the conditioned souls. So these instructions of the Bhagavad Gita are meant for the conditioned souls, ultimately. But, so Arjuna is put in this position by the will of the Lord. So, an important point Prabhupada is mentioning here, actually throughout the whole purport, because many persons are there who are accepting the existence of the soul, but they have the wrong understanding or the imperfect understanding that the individual soul is there, the individual soul is eternal, but that after giving up the body by spiritual practice, one may merge in the absolute truth. And the absolute truth has no form. So they are known as Nirakarvadi, Mayavadi, Brahmavadi. So they say the absolute truth has no form. They want to merge in the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence of Krishna's body. And they say this is the absolute truth. The Brahma Jyoti, the light. Those persons who are practicing that and who would want to become free from this material existence, they are accepted also as Mahatmas, as great souls. According to the Bhagavad Gita, also the 12th chapter. So as Arjuna is asking, who is better, those who are meditating on the impersonal Brahman or those who are meditating on you? And then Krishna is explaining that. So those who are meditating on the impersonal Brahman, they may attain perfection after many lifetimes only. And that is very troublesome. Whereas those who are meditating on me, for them are the swift deliverer from the cycle of birth and death. So the Mayavadis, of course, from one point of view, they say that we have to try to control the senses, the mind, not engage in material activities, but then we have to try to be absorbed in the absolute truth, the nothing. So, but actually, and they present it as, well, it's very easy, don't think of anything and emerge in the Brahma Jyoti. But actually, that is not easy, not to think of anything. It is not natural. The mind is always thinking of something, accepting or rejecting. And it is actually difficult not to think of anything. And so therefore it is actually troublesome. And also because it is, even if one is able to do so, merging the Brahma Jyoti, that is not the actual liberation. One is liberated from this material existence, but one is not properly situated. That is a conditioned state. So Prabhupada is stressing this whole point and the purport that we should try to understand, and quoting also from the Vedic literature's famous verse, Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bhavanam Yo Vidadati Kaman. Because there are many statements in the scriptures in regards to that. So, the different personalities are there, but one is the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Lord, and then other personalities are there. These are the associates of the Lord, the Jivas. And Krishna is explaining also in 15th chapter, Mamevam Sajiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The living entities are my part and parcels. And the 15th chapter, and the end of the 15th chapters also is explaining the two kinds of living entities, Chara and Akshara. Those who are actually conditioned and those who are free from conditioning. And beyond, I am there. Beyond them, I am there. So that is the philosophy of the devotees of the Lord. That is the actual fact. So these are basic, fundamental principles of the absolute truth. And so the acharyas have explained. So specifically Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a book, Jaiva Dharma, in regards to this. Jaiva Dharma, the religion of the soul, or the constitutional position of the soul, the inclination of the soul, that is to serve Krishna. But then he's explaining in conditioned life, so many persons may be there and they may have so many conceptions. But then he's explaining 10 basic fundamental principles of the absolute truth known as Dasha Mula Tattva. Dasha means Mul Tattva, 10 Mul. Mul means that refers to root. Tattva, principles of the Absolute Truth. So 10 principles are there. First of all, we have to understand that Krishna is the Absolute Truth. Rasavai Saha is the source of all transcendental mellows. Amnaya Praha Tattvam Iha Paratattvam. So, Rasabdim. So that the Amnaya, the revealed scriptures have explained that Hari or Krishna is the Absolute Truth. Paratattvam, Rasabadim. Paratattva is the Supreme Absolute Truth. Rasabadim. So it's the notion of ras, of transcendental mellow. As explained, Rasavai Saha. So it's the source of all these rasas. Also, in the first verse of the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami is explained. Akila Rasamrita Murti Prasimara Ruchi Rudas Taragapali Lalita Kvalita Lalita Shama La Radha Prayam Vidur Jayati. So I offer the respect to Krishna, who is just like the moon, full moon. And so it's the source of all transcendental mellows. And the mellows or the transcendental exchange is there with his devotees, his associates. So that has to be understood from the Vedic literatures, that has to be understood from the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna here is explaining that point that never was there a time when I did not exist, no you, no all is king. So we are all eternal. That is the first point. So we are beyond this material world, we are eternal. We existed in the past, we are existing now, and we will exist in the future. But there's a difference between Krishna and the living entity. Krishna is Vibhu, is great, and the living entity are Anu, infinitesimal. And Krishna therefore is explaining also, I remember what happened before, and I know what is happening now, and I know what will happen in the future. But the individual souls, they cannot know what happened in the past, what will happen in the future. Only sometimes it happens that one, due to some circumstances, due of course, due to ultimately the will of the Lord, sometimes it may be there that one can remember something from the past life. Of course, then the pure devotees are there, they are also known as Trikalagya, they are just like Krishna. They may also know past and the future also, and the present, but not as much as Krishna. And they know by Krishna's mercy. They can know something from the past and something from the future. But Krishna knows everything about all the jivas. And so, because he's completely free from the modes of material nature, he's beyond this material world, and he's unlimited. So whereas the conditioned soul is very limited. So even in the liberated state, so the individuality is there, but Krishna is great and the living entity is small. So there's a difference, but the living entity has the same nature as the Supreme Being. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadi Radhir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Brahman is explained and is the most, materially speaking, intelligent person in his world, and is there in the process of creation. So, but he cannot fully understand in regards to the Absolute Truth. But Krishna is always fully aware of everything. And so the conditioned soul in this world, So, if they are fortunate, then they come in the association of the devotees of the Lord. Or they can hear from the Lord directly also. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. The living entities are wandering in this material universe from the higher planets to the lower planets. But if by good fortune they come in contact with a representative of the Lord, then they may take up the spiritual life. And they may make advancement on the path of spiritual emancipation. And they can have practical realization of their spiritual identity in regards to the relationship with Krishna. So Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha. So the jiva is also Satchidananda Vigraha. But Krishna is the Supreme Being. And the living entities are simply part and parcels of Krishna. So same quality, but the quantity is different. So by Krishna's mercy one may take up this path of spiritual life. By Krishna's mercy one may engage in devotional service. So it is not enough to simply have knowledge, but then one has to practically engage in devotional activities. Because that is our constitutional position, is to serve, to be in loving exchange with Krishna. So practical devotional service has to be there. And in the beginning, so the body is engaged in the service of the Lord. Because in the beginning, one is not aware of one's spiritual identity and relationship, and our relationship with Krishna. But one understands that one is a spiritual being, but that is not developed yet. But by engaging in practical devotional service with this body, with the mind and the senses, then the consciousness becomes purified, and then one can understand that one is different from this body. One can then ultimately understand one's relationship with Krishna, and then one can serve Krishna with one's spiritual body, and that is ultimately the goal. But it is a very gradual process. But if one is sincere and one is constantly endeavoring for perfection, then certainly in due course of time one will attain perfection by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master. And so in the second chapter, Krishna is speaking in regards to the soul, and so many verses are quoted in this regard, just to make the conditioned soul understand that is not the body. That is the first step in spiritual understanding, in spiritual life. And so that has to be heard many times, and one has to contemplate on that. Therefore it is mentioned that we should do our devotional service with Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan, with the knowledge that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, I am the servant of Krishna. And somehow in this material world, but I have to become liberated from this material existence. So in short, this is Sambandha Jnana. With this Sambandha Jnana, we should engage in service. With this Sambandha Jnana, we should chant the holy names. And then by doing so, constantly, then slowly but surely, one will be purified in consciousness, and then one can practically understand that one is different from this material body. And as also in the 9th chapter, Krishna is saying, Raja Vidya Raja Goyam Pavidamidam Uttamam Padacharam Yamyam Susukam Kattavam Yavyam. So direct experience will be there by practicing this process, by engaging in devotional service. Practical experience will be there, but it will take some time, so we have to be patient. In the beginning, some difficulties are there, but still, even in the beginning, one will experience some pleasure. Susukam kartum avyayam. So it is joyfully performed, this devotional service. Because immediately by engaging in spiritual activities, then there will be a reciprocation with the Supreme Lord. Because he will see, oh, this devotee is trying to approach me, is trying to make advancement in spiritual life. And Krishna will be pleased, and when Krishna is pleased, then we'll be feeling some joy, and then we can continue. But difficulties also will be there that we have to understand, and we have to try to overcome the difficulties, and Krishna actually will help us also to overcome. Or the spiritual master, the devotees, they will help us to overcome the difficulties. Even if one is more advanced in spiritual understanding, still difficulties will be there, especially in this world, in the material world. Even the pure devotees, they have to face so many difficulties. That is the nature of this world. It is full of difficulties. But by surrendering to Krishna, we can tolerate the difficulties, and by Krishna's mercy, we can overcome the difficulties. One by one. Dukharayam ashashvatam. It is a place of misery, this material world. That is unavoidable. But by engaging in devotional activities, then one comes to the spiritual platform, and then one can tolerate the difficulties of this world. And one can feel some joy, some pleasure, transcendental pleasure. But some difficulty will always be there. And then happiness and distress is there in this world. Heat and cold is there in this world. Pleasure and pain is there. And if Krishna is not in the center, then there is material life, and that is very temporary, flickering, and practically it is almost like a useless waste of labor what one is doing here in this world, because one is not advancing in regards to spiritual life, spiritual understanding, which is the purpose of human life. And so therefore one must engage in spiritual activities. Constant endeavor has to be there. But then still difficulties will be there, and one will feel some happiness and distress. But if Krishna is in the center, we can overcome this difficulties, and then one can tolerate the distress. And so in the beginning also, even for the devotee, the difficulties are there, and connection is there with this material body, and so the modes of material nature are there, and therefore the struggle is there. But the more one is advanced, the more one will be able to tolerate the situation, and one will be able to overcome the difficulties better, and one will not be disturbed so much by these difficulties, because one is transcendently situated, and one will understand that There's no factual ultimate existence of this material body or existence in this material world. It is temporary. And it's just like a vehicle, or as explained here in the next verses also. It is just like if you have a dress, you have a dhoti, kurta and chadar, or ladies have sari, and then you wear that for some time, but then there's a hole in the dhoti, one more hole in the dhoti or in the sari, and it gets old, becomes stained after washing so many times, and then at one point, now it is too old now, I have to throw that away. And then you get a new dhoti and kurta, or you get a new sari. So we take care of the cloth, and we need the cloth, but it is not such an important thing, the cloth. We as beings, we are more important. So similarly, for one who is highly advanced, the material body is not so important, but it is there, and we are in this body now, so we use it in Krishna Seva as best as we can, as long as we can. But then when the body is getting old, then Haribol, and we are near in there also. Narendra Krishna Prabhu is getting old and is getting ready, right? We have to go soon. We hope we can still live for some time, but the older you are, the more difficult it is. And then we are, we are ready. Okay, the body is really getting old. I can hardly see or hear anything. Difficult to walk. Digestion is weak. Then you don't mind to give up the body, and you are looking forward. Yeah, now getting really old, and then yes, now it's time to give up the body. Whenever Krishna wants, I will give up the body. And of course, we hope that we'll attain perfection, enjoy Krishna's pastimes. But if not, we have to take another body. But no harm, because Krishna will give us a good position, so we can continue with our devotional activities. So the devotees, for him, so birth and death is not so significant. Of course, some pain is there when you give up the body. When you take birth, also there's pain, even for the devotee who is advanced. Then he has to take birth again. Or even when Krishna wants a pure devotee to take birth again, then he has to take birth, and then he's coming out the womb of a mother, and it is painful, and he will be crying. And then there's a baby, even a pure devotee is there, they also appear in this world, and they are also subject to some extent to the modes of material nature, and they're feeling some inconvenience there. And then growing up, and then slowly then the consciousness is manifested, and the understanding is there by Krishna's mercy more and more. So those who are highly advanced, so they will understand very quickly the situation in this world. So they don't give so much. So, of course, they take care of the body, but the body is not so important. But we use in Krishna Seva the body. But we are there as spirit soul. And the spiritual soul is meant to serve Krishna. So therefore, even as a devotee, seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi, tad bhavaripsana kaya vrajano karsarataha, that we have, so to say, two lives. One is as a practicing devotee, I'm a devotee of Krishna, and pujari, or I'm doing some business or something. That is one life. The life of this body which we have, but then we are there as spirit soul, spiritual being, and then there should be the life in relation to Krishna. Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena chitrahi, siddha rup, the perfected understanding or realization of one's spiritual identity. And so that may be in our sampradaya in Braj, as a friend of Krishna, or having parental affection, or as beloved of Krishna. And then there's a relationship, and that is the real life. So we have to come to the real life in relation to Krishna. And so that we have to practice and in purified consciousness, then one can realize the real life, and then one has to then endeavor for perfection. So that of course will take some time to come to that stage of internal realization of one's identity and our relationship with Krishna, but we have to practice and we have to pray that we come to that platform. But still, then even then, externally we are doing something also. The body is there, we are using Krishna Seva. Just like somebody has a car also, driving here and there, we are using the car, is useful. But that's not the real thing, just to drive here and there. The real thing are we, the driver. And we have our life. So that is the real thing, is our relationship with Krishna and serving Krishna. And the body is there just to go here and there. And we're using Krishna Seva also. So the internal development has to be there ultimately. Not just the external activity of devotional service, but then the internal aspect has to be cultivated. Which is not so easy and it will take time, but we have to understand this point also. So therefore Rupa Goswami has explained in Nectar of Devotion. Seva sadhaka rupana siddha rupana chatrahi. Prabhupada mentioned that verse also in the 8th verse of the Upadeshamrita, which is the essence of all advice. Tan nama rupa charitari sukirtan smitana kramena rasana manasiniyoja tishtan braje tadanuragi jananugami kalam nayat akina itipadesha saram. He's saying that is the Upadesha saram, the essence of all advice. That tan nama rupa, tan refers to Krishna, nam and rup. So one should be sukirtana smrita. We should nicely be engaged in and speaking about Krishna's wonderful name, form, qualities and pastimes. And we should remember Krishna's wonderful form, qualities and pastimes. And then also specifically how that Braje in Braj, Tad Anuragi, Jananugami, those who have Anurag, the eternal associates of Krishna, have deep love for Krishna. We should follow in their footsteps. So that is the essence of all advice. And another verse which is there, also quoted in the same verse, from the Nectar of Devotion, Krishna smaram janam chasya nija prishnam samitam tattakata rachas koryat vazam brajasada. Also here we should always reside in Braj, in consciousness and if possible physically, but if not physically then in consciousness, which is more important than just physical existence. And then what is our business? Krishna smaram janam chasya. We should always remember Krishna and Chasya, Nija Prishtam Samihitam. Also, those who are very dear to him. We should remember him, not just Krishna, because Krishna is never alone. Krishna is there with his associates. The gopis, Maria Yashoda, Nanda Baba, his friends, the cows, the calves. And then we should remember them and their loving exchange. And then when we are absorbed in that, then we can realize our existence. And that is then perfection. When we realize our existence, that we are part of Krishna's family, Achyuta Parivar. And that is the goal of life. That we have to try to realize. Not just knowing I am spirit soul. That is the beginning, but then we have to realize we have an eternal relationship with Krishna, the person Krishna, and we are also persons, Satchidananda Swarup. So that is actual self-realization, and it can be practical experience can be there, practical realization can be there. And that is the goal of life, and ultimately that is what Krishna is trying to give us also in the Bhagavad Gita, but then specifically then came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he gave the process, and that is the chanting the holy names. And then by taking the shelter of Mahaprabhu, then it becomes more easy to surrender Krishna. Otherwise it is very difficult to surrender to Krishna, to understand Krishna properly, but by taking shelter of Mahaprabhu, that means then his teachings also, then it becomes more clear and becomes more easy to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So we take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we try our best and Krishna does the rest. Hare Krishna. Any question? Very clear, good. Okay, so it takes a prasadam. One question? Yes.
In Prabhupada's purport, it says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains innumerable living entities.
Yes.
So is that to be taken literal, that there is infinite numbers of living entities?
Yes.
So not a finite number?
No, the unlimited living entities are there. And it is true that ultimately Krishna is the maintainer of all of them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, especially for the devotees, he will directly take care of them. Others are maintained also through the agency of the Lord. It is just the nature of this material world also that the needs of every individual soul in whatever form that soul is there, even the elephant. Elephant is a huge animal and he needs a lot of grass to eat, right? But he gets his food every day. And other human beings or other animals also, they get what they need. Of course, sometimes they have to struggle because that is the nature of this material world. There's a struggle there. But they are maintained ultimately directly or indirectly by the Supreme Lord. Yes. Infinite number of living entities. Yes, infinite. You cannot count. Innumerable living entities are there. Yeah. So, but Krishna is the Supreme Lord and is Sarva Shaktiman. He is the source of all transcendental potencies. And so is Sar Aishwarya Purna. Is full in all opulences, just like a king in a kingdom. It's his kingdom, everything belongs to him. So in the material world, of course now there are not many kings, but previously kingdoms were there and the kingdom belongs to the king temporarily, and then so he's supposed to maintain the praja, those who are living in the kingdom, and if he's a representative of the Lord, which was there previously, then he was supposed to take care of all the citizens, and he was doing it also. If anyone had any problem, they could go to the king and say, "My dear sir, I have this problem, please try to help me." And then he was trying to help. So the king is taking care of the citizens, or a rich man, or a family man. Previously, the families were bigger. Now, 1 or 2 children is enough. Previously they had 8, 10, 12 children. And the Father was taking care of all of them. So Krishna is the Supreme Father and is all opulent. Sarashva Purna is full of all opulences. Unlimited opulence is there. Bhaktan Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Everything belongs to him. So he can fulfill the needs of all the innumerable living entities, whatever even. So spiritually speaking also, the spirit soul has some need. The spirit soul wants love. And Krishna is giving love to everyone, just like the sun. Especially in the winter, we like the sun, because it is cold. And there's one sun and there are so many, and especially in India you can see many people they worship the sun. And previously it was more often you could see people going out of the house in the morning and offering some water to the sun. And maybe millions of people they are doing that, even now. There's so many people living in India, they're still doing. I still see here also, in different places, you can see people offering water to the sun, sometimes 2 times, one time in the morning, after sunrise, and one time in the evening, before sunset. And there are millions of people doing that, and they're all praying to the sun, and they're all getting the sun's rays and some reciprocation. There's a reciprocation with the sun. So, but the sun is just a demigod and considered to be the eye of the Lord. And the sunshine is coming from the Brahma Jyoti. And the unlimited universes. And in each universe there's a sun, there's a moon. And they're getting the light from the Brahma Jyoti. And Krishna is the ultimate being. And so, everyone, Krishna was here, the Gopas were here, the Gopis were there. And the Gopas, they used to go with Krishna to the pasturing grounds. And then they saw Krishna, and then they were taking the brunch, the lunch bag, lunch tiffin, and then they're taking out the things and they're saying, here, look Krishna, try this what I got from my mother. Krishna is eating, and they're all seeing that, oh, Krishna is looking at me. Because Krishna is like the sun. Is the center of everything. And Krishna is more than the sun. And so Krishna can reciprocate with everyone. And so many gopis were there doing the Rasa Leela, and they all thought, oh, Krishna is dancing with me. And he was dancing with all of them. So that is Krishna, he can reciprocate with everyone. In the spiritual world and even in the material world, whatever somebody needs will get. But especially we take care of the devotees, and whatever they need he can directly supply also. So that is Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and he's taking care of infinite, unlimited, so living entities in their whatever situation they are. But those who are fortunate, they will recognize Krishna, they will approach him, and then Krishna is reciprocating with them. And those who do not recognize, still they are maintained by Krishna, but mostly indirectly because they are not aware of Krishna. And therefore, what is the exchange? Because they are not able to see the existence of the Lord. But still they are taken care of, just like a small child. A 1-year-old, he doesn't know. The father and mother are there and they're taking care, but they're taking care. When he's 5 years old, he will understand and he wants some toy. Ma, I want this toy. And the mother will give. And if she's not giving, then he's crying, the child, and then okay, I should give him something. And then when he's 10 or 15, then he's appreciating more. Well, my parents did so much, maybe I should do something for them. And then even later on, even you can be like 50 years old and still the parents are there and they want to take care of you. And they think, my small little boy. I'm 60 years old, I'm still like calling my parents are still alive. For them I'm still a little child. Well, I'm 60 years old, but that's how it is. And they always take care. So to speak of Krishna, he's always taking care of everyone. That is the Supreme Being. He has the capacity to take care of everyone. And if you appreciate that, then we are fortunate and then we can advance. Okay? Hare Krishna. Okay, here is Krishna Prasadam, Krishna's mercy. He's taking care.